Australia's wild country. Great, pristine areas stretching out across the vast outback. This wild and beautiful country is sought after today for a glimpse of a world that was, a source of recharging jaded human batteries run down by the pressures of urban living as we close the 20th century. The four-wheel drive vehicle has given any family with the desire access to these areas. These vehicles have been the key to unlocking the wild country. Many of these outback tracks can be treacherous. The deserts can be a harsh god. To go into these areas unprepared can, and sometimes does, mean disaster. The best investment in safety is knowledge. Author and photographer Bruce Honeywell is one person with a depth of knowledge of survival in the outback. Today, with partner Tina Plum, he travels the outback collecting information, keeping records, and taking photographs. This couple publishes the collected information as a source for would-be outback travelers. In a year, this couple will travel in excess of 40,000 kilometers on unsealed roads, cross deserts and flooded rivers, searching and collecting information that will allow others to find adventure in the outback with safety. We invite you to join us in just 1 year's travel. We'll cross the flooded Coopers Creek, attempt to cross the Simpson Desert not once but twice. We'll travel through the Kimberleys to see the Bungle Bungles burning at sunset. We'll leave the four-wheel drive behind and go fishing off the coast of Arnhem Land. We'll find a sad Aboriginal burial and art site that only recently had been desecrated. We'll travel down the crocodile-infested Roper River in search of a shipwrecked 120 years ago. On the way to the start of the track across the Simpson Desert is Coopers Creek. We have a brief and peaceful sojourn on the banks of this beautiful watercourse. We drive the crossing near Burke and Will's Dig Tree with care. The creek bottom at this point is solid, but we're careful to take a course downstream slightly to avoid a deep hole. The Dig Tree still grows in a land of plenty. It's hard to imagine the tragedy laid out on these banks 140 years ago.
This is a very famous tree in Australian heritage. It's the Dig Tree on Coopers Creek. This is where Robert O'Hara Burke and his offsider Wills came down from the Gulf after one of the most epic journeys in Australian exploration history.
Not far from the Dig Tree, travellers still get into trouble. These fellas were coming down from Birdsville. While travelling with all the comforts of home, their vehicles not suited to travel on these tracks. The Toyota's winch soon has the truck on solid ground. Coopers Creek is magnificent. We enter the special inner world of the waterway and paddle from our camp down to the small town of Inaminka. Roads around Inaminka can be treacherous after the wet. We travel north and take a little time out at the ruins of Cadelga Station. Tina contemplates her own vehicle, but while the price might be right, it's seen better days. Emus take an interest in the travellers, especially when Tina produces a bright piece of yellow material. The big birds can't help their curiosity. The Simpsons Crossing starts at the Rig Road turnoff, 212 kilometres south of Birdsville, along the Birdsville track.
Welcome to the Simpson Desert. This might be a strange introduction to a desert. So this is Warburton Creek, and this is the eastern boundary to the desert.
The Rig Road is the easier of the two popular Simpson crossings. With Tina's daughter Juliet, we're crossing by the Rig Road and then attempting to return to Birdsville by the soft sand and bigger sandhills of the French line. There are still remnants of earlier pastoral times, when landholders made a living in the good times right out into the desert. From the old cattle yards, we head out into the desert proper. The soft sand of the sandhills on the Rig Road have been surfaced with clay. It's known as a clayed road. On through the day, the vehicle travels, consuming the miles of the Rig Road. While the track looks easy, the distance and remoteness make it potentially dangerous for the inexperienced. The Simpson Desert is a huge expanse of rolling sandhills, measuring some 150,000 square kilometres. It was only named in 1939 by the latter-day explorer C.T. Madigan. The first person to cross the desert was Ted Colson, who in 1936 crossed from Bloods Creek Station to Birdsville in a blistering 19 days, following heavy rain that supplied green pick and ample drinking water for his livestock. The four-wheel drive vehicle must be adequately equipped for the desert. Auxiliary fuel tanks, strengthened suspension, and heavy-duty protection equipment are necessary. We also carry a two-way radio tuned into the Flying Doctor network, just in case of major problems. Out in the desert, a lone gum tree grows, like a plaything of nature's whim, choosing the lonely existence of desert life. But not so lonely in recent years. The tree's cool shade is a welcome resting spot for many passing travellers. The road is long. The eroded clay tops of the sandhills add to the roughness of the trip, being badly washed out by recent rains. And then the harshness of the desert is behind us as we drive into an oasis.
Thank you, Mum. What's up, Skip?
I was born under a wandering
Where did that come from, Skip?
A surprising Star Wagon from Mitsubishi.
Peace of mind. It's important with any investment and a high return. You'll want a trusted investment house, strong enough to handle changes that could blow up. There's always AGC, secure for over 60 years with assets of $10 billion and paying top interest rates from 1 to 5 years. You'll need a prospectus, available from AGC, Westpac, or your financial advisor. It's a very comforting document. AGC, it's Australian for finance.
Peter Garrett, the power and his latest passion, homeless kids.
It's turned from a problem into an epidemic.
Tonight on 60 Minutes.
Ferny Bore is indeed an oasis in the desert. Steaming, boiling water gushes out of the ground, feeding a series of water holes that have become a life-giving centre to a whole ecology of wildlife. Birds are everywhere around Ferny. Top-knot pigeons drink in the late afternoon while carrying out a bit of social chit-chat. West from Ferny and on to the edge of the Simpson is Dalhousie Springs. Here springs fill great ponds with warm water, a very special reward and respite after a long desert crossing. The springs are an ideal camp and make an outdoor office to catch up on a bit of work. Only 12 kilometres from the springs are the Dalhousie Ruins. Dreams of a pastoral empire once flourished here, as well as being a repeater station for the Overland Telegraph Line. But drought smashed the dreams of greatness. The station, established by Ted Baggett at the end of the last century, today glows in the afternoon sun under the still flourishing date palms. Heading back from Ferny, it's only 31 kilometres to the start of the French line. The soft sand of the first hill is a distinct difference from the clayed hills of the Rig Road. Once in the soft sand, it's necessary to partially deflate the tyres to maintain traction and flotation. Around 15 psi is found to be a good starting point. Even with deflated tyres, some hills are difficult. It's a matter of calmly reversing back and trying again. And getting the speed just right to take the loaded vehicle over the top. The track of the French line is fairly easy to follow. A reasonable pace can be maintained on the flats between the sand hills. Even out on the desert, birthdays don't go away. The further the track heads east, the more salt lakes are crossed. These can be treacherous if still wet. Even when dry, they make heavy going for the four-wheel drive. Juliet amuses herself while we work on the lake. Her backyard is huge.
the desert is a very special spot.
Popple's Corner is the point where the Northern Territory, Queensland and South Australia shake hands. This point was surveyed by Augustus Popple in 1880. Conditions were different in those days. No tracks to follow and no air-conditioned four-wheel drives. Popple took 6 months to cover 300 kilometres on his slow-moving camels. Popple was the first European explorer to venture into the desert that was to be later called the Simpson. The desert's just about behind us. You can just about taste the cold beer at Birdsville. Only one problem. Big Red.
This is Big Red. As far as sandhills go, it's the challenge of the Simpson Desert. It's not necessary to go straight over it on the QAA line. There's a good bypass for most four-wheel drives without a lot of difficulty off to the north. I'm going to give it a go. I'm not saying I'm going to get over there, but I'll give it 1 or 2 goes. If I can't get across, I'll just wander around. It's no big deal.
The temptation was too great. The one try extended into 2 and 3, but the heavily laden Toyota just would not pull over the talc soft top, not without deflating the tyres and running it at too fast for safety. Birdsville. Never was there so small a town that seemed so wonderful after a week or 2 in the desert. Now it's time to head for the Kimberleys. At Alice Springs, Juliet returns home to the city. From here, in the land of road trains, we start the Tanami Track. This track is a long run of some 1,400 kilometres, with few services, crossing the Tanami Desert. Out in the desert lie the Granite's goldfields. This long abandoned source of wealth has been kick-started in recent years with the increasing value of gold. The ruins still lie about the golden ridges, telling of tough old times when fortunes were sought in the remotest of deserts, when a miner's belongings would be hauled 1,000 kilometres in a wheelbarrow. The Tanami Track is a reasonably graded dirt road. The Tanami Desert is a flat desert of spinifex, totally removed from the red sand hills of the Simpson. When leaving the track, care should be taken not to get spinifex caught under the vehicle, as it contains a resin that is highly flammable and can be ignited by a vehicle's exhaust pipe. The border's crossed. In Western Australia, the track becomes a little rougher. It's a long haul across the Tanami, but at the end of the track is the wonderful geographical jewel, the Kimberley.
On the Nine Network, this is EarthQuest. Centuries of exploitation endanger the green turtle. The story after this.
So good on your cereal, so good as a drink, so good the reasons why.
No cholesterol, no lactose.
Yes, you better give it a try.
Sanitarium,
So good.
The green turtle, prized for its flesh, shell and oil, is rare outside Australia, and its survival may well depend on an international study involving research from Queensland University. While the turtles breed safely in Australia, they're slaughtered in their distant feeding grounds. Once the study identifies where turtles breeding in Australia feed, critical habitats can be protected. In the meantime, travellers can do their bit by not buying turtle products. I'm Peter Wilkinson for EarthQuest.
Hello, Michael Hill. Don't forget Mother's Day on May the 12th. She'll love this solid gold locket worth $90 for only $39. Or this diamond bow ring worth $130 for $49. Michael Hill Jeweller, where the finest quality is affordable.
Oh, the accountant rang. Just finished the books. We've survived the first year, love.
We rich yet?
Not exactly, but we're okay. It's our own business, up and running.
Yep, we're running 24 hours a day.
Michael Lloyd, age 30. Married, 1 child, mortgage.
We're really proud of your son. Your own boss. You can't beat it.
Michael's challenge, to reduce tax and build a nest egg for retirement.
Ah, if I'd known what was involved, I'd never have taken it on.
Rubbish, Mike. Boats are your life.
Rent, wages, lease equipment, it never stops.
Yeah, but with your name on the door.
Well, the door's still open, and we're growing.
Decision, invest $230 per month into National Mutual superannuation.
My daddy has lots and lots of boats.
Result, Michael's tax burden is reduced and his National Mutual agent estimates he'll receive at least $500,000 at age 65. National Mutual, for the most important person in the world.
Beware the wolf in the stores. The wolf is there, behind clothes you can't trust. Look for the Woolmark label and be sure of the quality.
Just driving over the last ridge, the sight of the Bungle Bungle Massif takes the breath away. With the sun setting, it's a magnificent vista. It's been said the best way to see the Bungle Bungles is from the air. Tina, Neil and Michael book up the 3-seater helicopter that works the Bungles during the season. The unexpected emotion of the trip bubbles out of Tina as she rejoins us. The Bungle Bungles are indeed a special place. Wyndham is the cauldron port of the Kimberleys, stewing under the bluffs of the Bastion. This town has cleaned up its act in recent years, metamorphosizing from a lazy Kimberley port and meatworks town to a clean old world town facing a future of tourism. The touristy thing to do at sundown is to join the sightseers at what used to be the blood gutter from the now demolished meatworks. Today the crocs are fed fish leftovers to maintain this tourist tradition. And on cue, the crocs come. Above Wyndham, from the lofty bluffs of the Bastion, there's an eagle's eye view of the Kimberley River system. From Wyndham, we leave the heavily beaten tourist paths. We head into the rugged heart of the Kimberley, into real four-wheel drive country, along the Gibb River Road. The Coburn Ranges are out of a Western movie set. Their bluffs soar red and tall. This is country where eagles dare. The Gibb River Road crosses the ranges, then crosses the rocky bed of the Pentecost River. Climbing into the Mosquito Hills on Home Valley Station, there's a vantage point that looks out across the Pentecost Valley to the magnificent Coburns. Durack River Station is a new traveller's centre on the Gibb River Road, built on Jack's Waterhole, part of the Durack River. Jack's Waterhole was once a favoured camping spot of a drover of old. Here he let his horses graze and fatten in the off-season, making ready for the following season's work of taking Kurunji bullocks through to the railheads of far distant Queensland, half a continent away. The station's facilities offer meals and showers, and the waterhole's a great place in which to cool down. The Gibb River Road joins gorges and creek crossings, spearing right through the heart of the real Kimberley. It's a track running from Wyndham to Derby. It can be rough and corrugated, and there are many wet crossings, like the Barnett River. Quiet, isolated camps are easy to find, even though there are many four-wheel drivers on the road today. Here in the heart of the King Leopolds, there's time to reflect away from stringent deadlines and fast trip times. Time to absorb the quiet magnificence of the Kimberley.
The way some insurance companies talk about superannuation, you could think that we'll all be filthy rich and carefree. The truth is, if you're not paying enough now, you simply won't have enough when you retire. So if your superannuation agent has you dreaming about all that money, you should talk to someone who'll help you get all that money. Medway Super realizes that, so they'll make sure you can afford to have a dream come true.
Look at these fantastic Copper Art specials. Delicately carved landscapes in their own glass cases, only $9.95. Quality enamel cooking sets were $49, now $29.95. But only at Copper Art, where your dollar buys more.
At Target this Mother's Day, it only takes a little to make Mum feel a little special. Spoil her a little with a crinkle jacket for a little, $49. Or plain crinkle pants for a little, $29. Brighten her day a little with turtleneck and plain wool jumpers for a little, $32. Or a fashion check or reversible jacket for a little, $59. So make your mum feel a little special this Mother's Day at Target.
You always take me by surprise. The way you move, the way you make me feel. You take me.
The new Mazda 323. It'll take you by surprise.
What makes Sizzler special? I help myself to these tempting treats, and voila, dessert delight. And it's all included in the Sizzler all-you-can-eat soup, salad, pasta, and dessert bars.
Tonight, from the producer of the box office hit Home Alone, comes a new comedy about growing up. Domestic life.
You don't know what kind of mower you got? You got a big yard king 410.
The in-laws.
Why did you have to involve my daughter? Three can't live on what you make.
And coping with parenthood.
Thought I'd be nervous.
Flatlander star Kevin Bacon.
About to charge headlong into the jaws of responsibility.
Red October's Alec Baldwin with Elizabeth McGovern. In the television premiere, she's having a baby. Tonight, 8:30 on 9.
We're on Bitumen Road again, with all the Gibb River Road information collected. This time heading for Arnhem Land via Halls Creek. Creek is a ghost town. Desert winds blow through the ruins of what was once a thriving gold town. The cemetery is a sad reminder of the hardships that confronted the miners and their families of half a century ago. Tombstones tell of hopefuls who perished on the Tanami track and of the grief of mothers who could do little but watch their babies die of fever. Today, the frontier spirit is not dead, and a new building has risen among the old, offering a range of services to visitors. But the ruins are deteriorating as time goes on. Each wet season washes more of the old post office back to the earth from where it came. It is of all Australians' interests to maintain these buildings for the future, so visitors can get a feel of just how hard it was in the pioneering days. With the four-wheel drive left behind, it was time for another style of travel. This time in the diesel-powered fishing boat, the Oceanites. This boat's based in Nhulunbuy, on the northeast corner of Arnhem Land. Paying fisher folk rent the craft for some of the best fishing in the world off the almost unknown Arnhem Land coast. It's not long before Frank and Ron have got their lines wet, and the long trip flying up from down south starting to pay off.
All the way. Look at that.
Skipper John Grimes has a good knowledge of our northern coastline, but there are some reefs that even he doesn't know about. In spite of a few setbacks, the fish come in. John hooks a little reef shark, who in turn hooks himself. Fishing along reefs close to the shore, a variety of reef fish are pulled in, mostly choice coral trout. The anchor comes up and we're steaming northward, past the dog-dreaming islands. In Aboriginal Dreamtime mythology, it's believed that these islands are the tracks of the ancestral dingo as he crossed the Arafura coming to our land from the north. The rugged, rocky coast of Arnhem Land is spectacular as we steam past. We round Cape Wilberforce and cruise into the calm waters of Elizabeth Bay. Here Matthew Flinders, on his voyage of discovery, came across a fleet of prows. The Makassarese people came down from the Celebes in what's now northern Indonesia each year and hunted beche de mer. These sea slugs were boiled and dried on the hot sands of these beaches and sold to the Chinese market for high prices. The dried beche de mer were used to make an aphrodisiac soup. The beaches of Elizabeth Bay have been the scene of commerce for centuries. Today, as part of Arnhem Land, they're pretty much deserted.
Many people think, because of the way we look, David Jones is more expensive than other stores. But when they come in, they're so surprised to find that our prices are as low or lower than our competitors. Even when they're on sale, we immediately reduce the price of the same merchandise. We're proud of our service, and our pricing policy guarantees you pay no more. So why shop anywhere else?
There's no other store like David Jones.
Butter is natural. butter tastes better. And butter has the same number of kilojoules as margarine. Butter. Good food, good taste.
When an organisation can harness the power of its resources, it becomes strong. One Australian institution has that power, with investments in many of the country's blue-chip companies, which include mining, industry, the media, and oil and gas exploration. It is also Australia's largest international reinsurer, with over 1 million customers and more than $7 billion in funds under management. GIO Australia has grown to become one of Australia's top 100 businesses. GIO Australia, the power to perform.
The pleasure of driving a new luxuriously appointed Mazda 929 V6i with every feature and comfort you could possibly want becomes all the more pleasing when you learn that for 3 years or 80,000 kilometers, your biggest expense will be petrol. Because Mazda is now offering new Mazda 929 buyers all service costs free for the life of the 3-year warranty. Awaiting your response.
How often do you have to teach your parents a thing or two?
Tom!
In Channel 9's Hit and Happening comedy, the kids do it all the time.
You wouldn't even know what I was doing. It's called Enterprise.
Beat me up, Scotty. It's all together now.
Hi, guys.
This week, Tina Arena guest stars as...
Vanessa, the undresser.
in one totally hilarious episode of All Together Now.
What do you think?
Yeah! Catch on to it Tuesday at 7:30 on Channel 9.
The Wessel Islands run like a narrow finger of rugged land up into the Arafura. Through the centre of the Wessels is a narrow, fast-flowing channel called the Hole in the Wall. It's used as a course for trawlers and fishing boats travelling between Darwin and the Gulf of Carpentaria. We steam for the Hole in the Wall. Skipper John Grimes has picked his tide right. We glide through the deep, fast-flowing passage. The rock formation of the Wessels is spectacular. Historic graffiti adorns the rock walls, telling of the boats and ships that have made the crossing. On the lee side, we drop anchor. There's supposedly some good fishing around the Hole in the Wall. But it's not long before the trevally are running in the channel. It's like an aquarium. Big fish in clear water. Outside the main channel, the big queenfish run. Trolling along the coast, Frank finds the action he's been looking for. Watch this. Frank has hooked one and is playing it. Just watch John, who's just playing around with a light rod while Frank works. Yep, he's got one too. 2 queenies together. This is fishing. Frank rounds off the day with a beauty. At Truant Island, a pre-breakfast throw-in delivers a big barracuda. Cod come up out of the clear water for breakfast scraps. The Truant light saves many ships from running aground on dangerous shoals. But even with the light, some don't make it. Up on the headland, age-old rock placements tell of communication between Aboriginals and the Macassarees through the centuries.
Now, Terry Yumbalal, who's the traditional owner of this part of the island group, his totem, his family totem, is the whale, and the rock at Cape Arnhem, as it is awash, is known as Yumbalal. He uses the whale as his symbol, and here we have the whale depicted in his totemic form, with the outline that you can see around here as the whale is breaching, and here's the whale's tail. The rocks were used by the Macassans and the Aboriginals to communicate. They were symbolic terms, and one of the rock formations is still used today by the Boy Scouts, and it's the international symbol for goodbye.
John Grimes is a fisherman who cares for his chosen environment.
In a world where finance dominates everything, it helps to keep things in perspective. Like applying for a home loan. You're the one who does all the homework, negotiates the price, and has to make all the repayments. So if your bank still treats you like they're doing you a favor, you can always find someone who's more in favor of you. Until the old banking system realizes that, there will be no other bank like Medway Bank.
Harvey Norman's Price Crash catalogue is out now. There's page after page of homemaker bargains. Burley in the spring single mattresses are low $89 each. Ronson's Gentle Curls hair rollers, $48. TAC forehead long play VCR, only $4.99 with a 5-year warranty. Save $140 on the Sandbridge 3-piece lounge suite, just $9.99. Our colonial collections at yesterday's prices. The Catcher Buffet and Hutch, $5.99, and the 5-piece dining, $4.99. Hurry, hurry, hurry! Harvey Norman's Price Crash catalogue is out now.
Harvey Norman, you got it.
Here's a sensational offer from Sharp. This beautiful encyclopedia of microwave cooking worth $50 is yours when you buy selected Sharp microwave ovens before Mother's Day.
This is one of the best microwave cookbooks I've ever seen. Hundreds of pages full of wonderful Australian recipes and helpful hints.
The encyclopedia of microwave cooking. Hurry to Chandler's and David Jones for this special Sharp cookbook offer while stocks last.
Now that's what I really want. Simply the best from Sharp.
Monday,
8 big ones.
the winning continues.
I'm just trying to make you sweat because you won $8,000.
With TV's best formula for fun.
You'll understand why I'm laughing shortly.
With Glenn Ridge.
I was visualising Moby Dick as a one-legged master.
And Joe Bailey.
Beautiful.
Sale of the century.
Hey, got a feeling we're going to go a long way with him.
Monday, 7 o'clock.
On the other side of Arnhem Land, on its southern edge, is the Roper River, a tropical river, the home of the saltwater crocodile. It wasn't far from here that we found a sad reminder of the callousness of humans, and also a splendid art site. Following directions given me by an Aboriginal stockman some years ago, I climbed the steep rock wall, too slippery for boots. I entered the cathedral quiet of the cave. It was a powerful place, a place commanding respect. I walked into the main section. Magnificent paintings were spread overhead. And then I saw them. A chill went down my spine. These were human bones. Human bones still daubed in red ochre from ancient burial rites. But they should have been rolled in paperbark. And where were the skulls? The whole picture slowly dawned. The burial site up on a rock ledge had been desecrated. The unwanted bones thrown in a heap on the cave floor below. The skulls taken for whatever reason. Apparently unwanted, very sacred site. Probably the family group with responsibility for the caretaking of this country had been shot out in the wars that raged in this country as late as the 1930s. Back on the Roper, we once again meet up with Neil Bromley. This time, his board is tinny, and it's with Skipper Bromley we're now looking for the wreck of the Young Australian. The Young Australian was a steam-driven paddle-wheeler tugboat. It was sent up to the wild Arnhem coast in 1870 to tow ocean-going vessels up the Roper River. These ships were laden with materials and supplies for the construction of the overland telegraph line. For a year and a half, the tugboat laboured under the command of Skipper Bill Lorry. When the last load was hauled, the tug ran fast aground on a dot of an outcrop called Tomato Island. The rumours tell of a New Year's binge on rum, but whatever the answer is, the relics of this piece of history are somewhere down the Roper, and we were going to try to find them. The waters of the Roper can be tricky, even in the light aluminium boat. The course is tenuous in places. We pass the confluence of the Wilton River, bringing waters from far inside Arnhem Land. There ahead lies the minuscule Tomato Island, barely visible and close to one bank. Difficult indeed to imagine how the young Australian found it, let alone impaled itself upon its rocks. The young Australian was 95 feet long with a beam of 17 feet. It was built in England in 1853, powered by a 40 horsepower steam engine. In Laurie's almost unreadable log, he describes the last days of the tug, how his weary crew battled in torrential wet season rain, pumping out the hull and cutting bush timber to patch the void. All these efforts were to no avail. Tomato Island's grip was tenacious, and there, the young Australian stayed.
I still can't believe how well the steel of the boilers and everything, the old riveted things, they couldn't weld in those days, of course, but the rivets are just in perfect condition, aren't they?
Only the ironwork remains, the timber hull having long rotted away. The shafts and cogs and rods and iron boiler are in remarkable condition, considering the brackish water.
Is this what you call crockbait, Neil, is it?
I think so. Trolling for crocodiles.
Trolling for crocodiles.
Using live bait.
This is the long billabong country of the Roper. Magnificent waterholes, bejeweled with water lilies. Here lie the recent ruins of St. Vidgen's Station. Established by Jack Pender in the 60s and having several owners since then, today it's abandoned through remoteness and the vagaries of the cattle market. Slate flooring shows some of the homemade style that once made this homestead comfortable. Even the cattle yards are in disrepair, but there's still strength in the Kudgee butt rails, a timber chosen because it's not on the menu of the North's rapacious termites. Loaded, on the road, and heading for home. But it has been a long trip, taking on a continent in a few short weeks. With a brief pause at an idyllic billabong. The strain's starting to tell. Tina's getting tired, too long away from her family. Even while lunch is being cooked, Joanna strolls down to the local for a drink. Birds make the music of relaxation. It's been a long trip, but the facts are in the bag. Trips are defined and measured. The photographs are taken. At home, there's only a short sprint of 2 days away.
We hope